Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Spellsinger and this is the beginning of a brand new series of gamebook reviews by author James Aukett. And this review is going to give you a quick look at this title with its book number. I shall read the blurb, we'll have a look at the plot, talk about the game mechanics, have a look at that adventure sheet, and then we'll chat a bit about the artwork that's in this book, talk about my own likes, my own dislikes, any fun facts, and we'll finish on a summary and score out of 10. So yeah, this is a brand new series of game books for me, certainly anyway. They've been around for a couple of years now. This particular one, this came out in 2024. This is Quadportal. As I said, it was by author James Aukett. And the cover art here was by Author James, which I'll go into a little bit later on. But the internal illustrations were all by Matthew Dewhurst. And together, the artwork is a really nice combination of that line art style that we love, and complements this adventure game book really well. So let me read the blurb to you. So it says here, Quadportal is a collection of adventures where you are the main character in each one of them. Hunt down a serial killer in RIPPER REAPERMAN. Bring an end to a merciless mind master in ULTRAVIOLATOR UNDERWORLD. Put a stop to a dark priest's plans in Spiritual Sacrilege, or take down the tyrant of the infamous Tormentor Treetowwer. So as you can tell there's 4 adventures. So a bit about the plot for this game book. Now, like I say, there's 4 short adventures in this game book. So 4 separate plots comprised of 100 references each. And the first adventure is RIPPER REAPERMAN, where your mission is to explore the streets of Belverslade in a bid to find this serial killer who's responsible for killing the locals and these innocent victims of this town. And the object is to talk to various people, find various clues, a sprinkling of riddles around to try and catch this killer before he strikes again. Next you have ULTRAVIOLATOR UNDERWORLD, where you have to delve into the Ordno mines and locate this despised master of evil in this evil realm, this huge great underground mine. And you're asked to perform this task by the suffering residents of the neighbouring village of Mottinghurst. And once you find this tyrant, you've got to dispose of him the best way that you can. Now next is Spiritual Sacrilege. So this is set in the Northgate Abbey, sort of a monastery, if you like, that is experiencing this misfortune of a dark priest who's decided to settle within this abbey. And it's believed that this priest is practicing all manner of dark necromancy, and it's your goal to put an end to these sorcerous ways. And then finally, you get to explore Tormentor Treetower, where you progress up through the different tiers of this huge tree house, if you like, and you gotta search out this kind of wicked ruler. It's like the despot of this surrounding woodlands, and it's known that this ruler is posing as a threat to the Falconleys Woods and all those that inhabit, and it's down to you to put an end to him as well. So 4 really nice, straightforward, short, punchy game books, all in this one quality book. So the game mechanics for this book, now they're a lot like the fighting fantasy style of mechanics. They're quite nice and simple, a good rendition of that kind of fighting fantasy rule and style. And there are 4 characteristics to begin with, which are Brutality, which is kind of like your combat prowess. You've got Physicality, sort of demonstrating how capable you are to deal with all these different feats and actions you need to perform. Then you've got your Mentality, which is kind of like your puzzle and your riddle solving skills. And then finally, we've got Vitality, which is kind of like your health, so your stamina or your endurance. The higher, the better. And to establish your characteristics, starting with Brutality, you roll a 1d6 plus 4, and that kind of gives you that statistic. And then your Vitality is a 2d6 plus 8, and that will give you your kind of energy, your vitality. But the other two, the Physicality and Mentality, are a little bit different. You have 15 points to kind of divvy up between them. So you've got to share out this 15 points between those two characteristics. but neither of them can be higher than 10 or lower than 5. And as usual, your current scores will vary, but they can never exceed that initial level, unless it's stated in the book. So now, fighting rules. They're very similar to Fighting Fantasy again, so all you need to know is your brutality and your vitality levels, those scores for you and your opponent, and they'll be stated in the book in the usual way. You just roll 2 dice, you add your brutality to get your attack score, then you do the same for the opponent. If your attack score is higher, you delve the damage. You get 2 points of damage to their vitality, but if their score is higher, obviously they do damage to your vitality. So it's nice, standard, fair combat style. Of course, if both scores are the same, then it's a standoff. You repeat until one of you is left standing and the other one is in the mud. You do also receive some starting items for your journey. So you get your standard sword, a backpack with 3 food parcels, and each one of these gives you 4 vitality in your health. And yeah, that's it. So mechanics are all very straightforward, but they kind of work really nicely with this book. It's a short book, like I say, so you can just pick it up and you're on your way. You don't need to worry too much about learning lots of different attributes. Everything is nice and straightforward, and it's really appealing, actually. Sometimes you just want to pick up a game book and hit it hard and hit it fast, right? So this leads to the adventure sheet. So you can see this adventure sheet here, kind of fill in the main 4 characteristics there, the brutality, the physicality, mentality, and vitality. And you tick off your food parcels as you go through them, and you've got your battle encounter boxes here as well. And then on this other one, you've got a place for your note taking and any items that you may have picked up along the way. But that's the adventure sheet, yeah. And then they're found in the back of this book. There's a couple of them, so you can do the usual. You can photograph them rather than deface the book. But yeah, that's it for the adventure sheet. Now, the artwork for this book, the full page artwork. There's 4 of them. So there's one at the beginning of each adventure. You kind of get this 1 page devoted to the artwork, which kind of sets up that particular adventure really well. The cover art and fill illustrations are by Warclaw Treyer. He's an artist. He runs 2 labels actually associated with sort of dark dungeon art. One of these is called Droned Artworks. It kind of specialises in the painting of covers, cover art, and some fantasy horror projects as well. And the other label is called Warclaw Games. It's kind of a bit more about designing board games, if you like. So a very traditional approach, like using all the inks and acrylics in the artwork, lots of dark colours mixed in with those metallic ones. And it really gives a kind of nice atmospheric sort of look to these backgrounds and all the characters that you'll find in this series of books. Because of course the author, James Aukett, decided to stay on board with these this illustrator, to represent his work, and I think that's a smart idea. It goes hand in hand really well. It's a style that's quite sort of simple. It kind of reminds you of those old cave paintings, those old caveman paintings that you get in some of these adventure books. But regardless of the fact that they may be sort of quite simplistic in their look, they still do the job. Now, my favourite picture is this one here. This is from ULTRAVIOLATOR UNDERWORLD, and this monster here, you've got to sort of standing over all these bones, and I do love the sort of return to this kind of line artwork, and the sort of move away from some of these more sort of clip art style, sort of AI artwork. I don't mind it too much. I've used it myself in some of my game books, but I think in this one, this kind of style really suits it. But yeah, this picture really jumped off the page to me, and I think it's one of my faves. So, likes and dislikes for Quadportal. So you can imagine these adventures, like I say, are quite short and punchy. I love that you can just sort of grab this book and read it on a train or a bus without having to worry about too many extras, all the little trinkets. And I mean, it takes dice, of course, but there's nothing else. As long as you've got the book, I mean, if you could even get away with downloading an app on your smartphone, and you could just read this pretty much anywhere. So they're all really intense, no nonsense, straight to the point objectives. You can just acknowledge and get on with it. The style reminds me of the good old days of those short game books with that kind of simple but really effective mechanic, straightforward path to victory. And you can see perhaps where author James Aukett was going with this. It's maybe testing the waters slightly to sort of see what genre he liked the most, and then went ahead with that, because of course he's written other game books which we will review as soon as we can. And also, if you do sort of fall foul to those instant deaths that we love, it won't take you long to get back to where you started. So yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It's a good length, and you can just jump straight into it. However, there was a few things I was not sure about. The choices offered can become very similar in terms of sort of choosing your direction. So it will generally be left or right, with no real detail as to what those options look like. Now, you could argue this is intentional and it adds to that kind of blank nature of a mine or a dungeon. However, being faced with this as your first option just felt a little bit off to me. And it's always nice, isn't it, when you get a little bit of description to say, I don't know, there's a howling moan from the left with a smell of death or something, and from the right there's a chilling breeze, anything just to sort of give you a little bit of idea, something to go on when you want to make that decision. Otherwise, it's tip-top. Now, I've got a few fun facts. James Aukett was born in London, clearly has a love for game books in general, and now I think that the way James Aukett has structured these game books in this series is as follows. I think he has this Quadportal, which is this one here. This is kind of like his introduction to his Q-Portal game books. And then he's got Quick-Portal game books. They're slightly larger adventures with titles like Castle of Condemnation, which I'll be reviewing next. And then there's a potential for a second book that I think he's working on that he sort of alludes to inside the book, The Forest of Fright. So that's coming soon as well. So I'm kind of hoping he's going to send me that one so I can review that one too. And then in the future, he hints towards Questportal, which is a series of the larger game books that I think he's planning on writing, maybe around the 400 mark. And all these books sit really nicely under the sort of author's Q-Portal game book saga. So it'd be really interesting to see where he goes with these books. And if he finds his favourite genre, maybe we'll see some larger game books in the future. Now also, while reading Ripper Reaperman, first book in this one, I noticed a variety of nods to other game books that kind of caused a bit of a double take for me. Let me read it to you. It's literally on page 3 or reference 3. And yeah, it was really nice to hear, actually. I'll read it to you now. So it says here, led to the very end of the arcade, the curator points to an article on a table and invites you to read its content. Walking up to where it's located, you see that the article is titled Document 3, with the subheading Post Future Recordings underneath. And although there is no indication of when this was written, it begins with a summary of how the rise of the ancients commenced, an era that deeply affected these fabled lands. It goes on to say how destiny's role played an ace to save people from the threat of falling under the control of the savage realms. And all of a sudden, you hear a cluster of echoes produced from the voices either side of the arcade. Concluding that you have spent enough time reading, the urgency of your mission comes back to you into your thoughts, along with the need of pressing on with exactly what it is you were assigned to do. So I just put up a few little images there just to sort of show some of the books that he obviously has a love for, as well as do I. And it's quite nice to sort of get a little nod to them. I've not seen that for a while, and it's just nice, when you can acknowledge other game books and authors that you're also interested in, kind of weave them into your story. Smart. Right, let's give a summary and a score out of 10 for Quadportal. All in all, an impressive collection of short game books, perfectly suited to kind of like the young players or even the returning older adventurers who are kind of looking for that nostalgia trip. And as James Aukett describes, he chooses 100 references for his story length to give a kind of short adventure that can be played more or less anywhere. And I feel his story, set in the streets of Belversley during that Ripper Reaperman book, was particularly strong, and it kind of transported me back to that London East End Jack the Ripper period while I was reading it. I'm not sure if that's what he's going for, but that's certainly what came back to me. I really enjoyed that one. The first book, that Ripper Reaperman, it was a nice short story, yet fairly open world, which is quite a good way to sort of open up your adventure. And it was actually influenced by electronic music arts, Knife Ladder, and Blacklight Ascensions. That's something I picked up on in his notes at the end of the book. And now, after reading it, it kind of made sense. So yeah, when you read these books, just look out for that and see if you can pick up on the clues. There are plenty of options to follow, lots of clues to act upon, items to make use of, and a few are essential, but most can be sort of used in conjunction with one another. So that's quite smart. And then you've got that second book, the Ultraviolator Underworld. It's another strong entry. If you like your dungeon crawls, you're going to love this one. For the story, the author basically describes spending a lot of time in North Wales, where many of the sites kind of fueled his mind and provided ideas for the descriptive work in this book. And changing his original idea as well. The original concept was to be a sewer, but after his little stint in North Wales, it became a dank mine. So revising that title as well. You can also sort of see a change to his sort of a noticeable change to his style as you read through these books, and his gamecraft as well. So that's quite nice to see as he, over time, sort of found his style. Now there's Spiritual Sacrilege, which is that third one that bears the author's love for that classic TV series of the 80s and 90s, Nightmare. I'll put a little link in for the description because James Aukett did a really good documentary style video for Nightmare, and it's worth a watch actually if you're a fan. I'll put the link in there, check it out, it's really good. But yeah, this one, it kind of gives you that feeling of all those dark corridors, strange characters. They really come to life in this adventure. And of course, if you were a fan and you're a big nerd and you loved the old Nightmare series, especially series 4, that was the one for me when I was reading this particular adventure, this Spiritual Sacrilege. That's the one that kind of stepped out for me. Because of course, if you know that series, that's where we kind of moved away from the dungeon, went out into the woods and into the abbeys. And that's the kind of feeling I got from reading this particular adventure. And this one, of course, is set in this kind of Gothic ruin, Gothic monastery, if you like, where the plan is to interact with all these monks that are kind of milling around. And there's plenty of secret paths, loads of interesting items to collect. The villain in this is Kethnic. It's a clever amalgamation, actually, of artist Nick Spender, a well-known fight and fantasy artist, and in particular, the book Rings of Kether. So, of course, you've got Rings of Kether, Nick Spender, Kethnic. That's quite a nice little nod again to some of his beloved authors and illustrators. And then, of course, you've got plenty of other little nods in this particular adventure. Other characters, actually, like if you've ever read the title, Fighting Fantasy title, Dead of Night, well, in this book, Sacrilege, Spiritual Sacrilege, you have this fella, one of the fathers, actually, by the name of Bambrand, so Father Bambrand. He's a character who assists you, actually, and his name is, of course, a combination of Jim Bambra and Stephen Hand, authors. And also there's this brother Oakrey, as a nod to the artist Terry Oakes. And then finally Abbott McKenna. He's a tribute to illustrator Martin McKenna. So yeah, really nice touch to sort of happen upon when you're reading through these adventure game books. But of course you're only going to pick up on them if you're a big fan. And then you've got that final book, Tormentor Treetower. And for me, one of the stronger of this quartet, actually. So I managed to romp up through the tiers of this huge, grand treehouse of terror. It's filled with all these dwarves pelting rocks at you as you're making your way up, and lots of vines to climb, lots of allies to meet. And the book is split roughly sort of 30 references per tier. So you're spending the right amount of time exploring each of the levels. And there's a couple of references before and after just to set it up and finish. So really neatly done, all tied up perfectly. The villain in this story is Tholkatar, one of the sort of woodland folk. And there are some clues dropped on how sort of best to defeat this head honcho, so something to look out for. It's quite nice to see clues in these books that, should you pick up on, will help you in that final battle. And these 4 adventures sit all really well in this world that author James Aukett has created. complement one another really nicely. You can almost see the rising gameplay and gamecraft as you move from one story to the next, as the author kind of found his rhythm. I want to thank James Aukett personally for reaching out to me and asking me for to review, this first book in his series on this channel. And of course, I jumped at the chance, and he even wrote a little note to me in his in his book. There we go. Like, you've made it in life when someone mentions you in their work. So yeah, thank you very much, James. I really appreciate it, and I really hope to receive that second book from your other range soon. But for this one, I'm going to give this a high 7 out of 10. It's perfect, like I say, for picking up if you just want a game book to kill a journey, or if you just want to get back into that old nostalgia. This book is perfect for you. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for Quadportal. Now the next book I'm going to review is another one of his, actually, that he has already written, which is The Castle of Condemnation. He sent me that book as well. Thank you again. So I'm going to review that one next. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Maybe chuck a comment there to see what you thought of this book, or if you're planning on reading it, having watched this review. That'd be great to hear your thoughts on this. And as always, share out the channel if you get a chance, and I'll catch you in the next review.